Okay. Good morning and welcome to the January 2023. It's our first press conference of the new year between myself and City Manager Stephen Wade. We have a couple things that we'd like to bring to your attention, and one thing I'll speak on just immediately, and then I think City Manager has a few more details that he'll share with us, and that is tomorrow, Wednesday the 25th. The city will be conducting its citywide point-in-time count of the homeless population. We do that not just as a mandate as required by HUD, but we do that because we're concerned about the people in our community who are lacking resources to maybe get them out of situations that have got them there for a variety of reasons. And so with that, we have a program, an EAS program that helps us address that population and work with them as quickly as we can and as effectively as we can to get them into a position where they may be able to change their life situation. And City Manager, I know that we have some detail that you can share with us about that and how we track our work so that it's just not counting heads.
Yeah, so a couple things. Certainly with the point-in-time count tomorrow, that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning and runs until 7 o'clock at night. And with that, especially with the snow coming tonight, there'll be assistance and welfare checks provided with that. So it's not just a physical count. We're actually checking on welfare. But that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, and certainly our partners with Vallejo and the Topeka Rescue Mission play a huge part in making that happen. And the Emergency Access Shelter program that the mayor referred to, we started that late fall, and to this point in time, we've had 1,643 unduplicated households in contact with, and that's since November the 1st. That's a lot when you talk about the folks in the community that are looking for help and looking for assistance. To have already been over 1,600 folks in 3 short months, Mayor, is a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the EAS system has been tweaked, as it were, and is even more efficient. And I have to commend Corey Wright and her staff for keeping up to date on all those resources that keep coming in to help us with our efforts. So their staff has really been busy in coordinating all of the information that we get. Data is good, but you have to use data for a good reason and put it to work. So I wanted to bring that up. Also, I think City Manager had a couple of points he wanted to bring up for today. And you can visit a little bit about, we can visit a little bit about that. One thing I want to talk a little bit about is I know that looking at the news, there's concern about the gun violence that the nation is experiencing. It brings to my mind the reason why I have been active in the Mayor's Task Force on Domestic Violence. I think that it's important for us to realize that oftentimes that is the source of some of the violence that is seen in the news. And so it's important for us to keep working in collaboration with healthcare providers, mental health care providers, to look at the condition of our community. And I think our community is doing well to give those resources and give those outlets to the community to help us evaluate what we're doing so that we know that we're doing everything we can.
That should help. And then, Mayor, one of the things we see is that trying to do business with the city sometimes can be difficult. And so the governing body made a change here this past session to where they voted to ease some of those restrictions to make it easier for businesses to work with the city. There's a vendor workshop scheduled for February 18 that morning from 9 to 10 at the Holiday Building. And we'll walk through, folks maybe have not done business with the city in the past, how to do that, how to register to do that, and we look forward to that. And then I've already mentioned the winter weather tonight. We are pre-treating streets right now, and we'll obviously keep a close eye on that.
Really be remiss if I don't mention that today is my mother's 93rd birthday. And so that way I have to make sure that she'll watch the news tonight to make sure that she saw me wishing her a happy birthday. So
I've got one other great piece of news that we see as a positive. So our distribution crews have been working water main breaks, and great news here over the last week. We've seen a decrease in some of those breaks, allowing crews to actually get caught up. We've worked 38 broken mains here in January, and when you compare that to the same period of time last year, it's about half of what we experienced in 2022. So that's a good piece of positive news.
okay, that's excellent news. Okay, well, any questions? Okay. Well, thank you for coming, and, oh,
What's the
sorry.
name of your mother?
Oh, Rose Padilla. Yeah.
I did have a couple of questions. I don't know if anybody else, and just kind of wrote a couple down. First of all, any comments or thoughts on the departure of Hills as corporate offices? Now they're keeping a lot of their business there. What are some things that are maybe in the works for Topeka to keep maybe attracting businesses or to keep the ones that we have? And is there any plans afoot? I know we're trying always to gain population. Can you speak at all to that? I didn't know if you could.
Well, I'll allow the city manager first.
Yeah, so I can tell you that obviously when you look at JADO and you look at our partnership over at GTP, the Greater Topeka Partnership, we're always actively recruiting and concentrating on retention too. You know, as far as Hills goes, we're super excited they're keeping their research facility here. That's a big coup for Topeka, and when you think about the animal health corridor, that plays a significant part. So we're very excited to have Hills remain as a corporate partner here. And you know, as far as population growth goes too, we're concentrating a lot on expanding our housing stock. We want to make sure that people have affordable places to come to live, and that some of our surrounding areas, competitors maybe, don't have that. And so that's an area of concentration for us.
To follow up on what the city manager said, I've spoken to a number of executives here in Topeka, and they've moved here from other locations. So there's that ebb and flow. There are some who move out for one reason, and then there are those who move into Topeka for the opportunities here in Topeka. One thing that they have brought up is our housing, that we need more housing. And that's something that myself, city manager, and the governing body has been working on, ideas and projects to improve the opportunity for increasing that number of available housing at all levels of income. So that's an ongoing effort for us.
Could you talk a little bit more about what the Mayor's Council on Domestic Violence does?
Yeah. Well, as a coalition of service providers, we meet, discuss, and have reviewed a lot of the case studies that those different partners have taken in to give us a real feel for where those resources are needed to either increase or shift. And that continues to grow in the numbers and members of that coalition. The one thing that I really like is that we've been able to connect with not just that Mayor's Task Force on Domestic Violence. We're looking at NAMI, which is another organization that looks at those contributing factors that may be part and parcel of domestic violence. And we try not to put it in just a little bag of, if you're in this situation, this is what's going to happen, because there are so many things that are variables that change what could happen in a family or, and just, not even a family, just a relationship that exists between people in everyday life. And we want to make sure that the environment that we promote in this community is that if you're struggling, if you need help, there are people you can reach out to. And we're asking the community, when they have that chance, when they see someone struggling, offer that opportunity to them, because there are a number of organizations who work together, not individually, that try to bring those problems to a head for those people so that they can talk about them and work about them. The coalition meets on a pretty regular basis. It's well attended, and I have to give credit to all of the members because they really have dedicated themselves to trying to do the best they can.
Could you talk a little bit more about how it's been made easier for businesses to deal with the city?
Yeah, so what council approved at the last session was basically for expenses up to $5,000. Once you cross that threshold, you had to go through a very extensive RFP process, a request for proposal process that honestly, the paperwork's pretty tough. And if you're a small business and you've never dealt with that before, it's a little bit of a barrier to entry. And so we've lifted that from $5,000 up to $10,000. Some of that was due to some inflationary impact, but very much in mind with trying to make sure that we are more open and easier to do business with.
Can either of you, and I don't know if you can, but can you talk either about this lawsuit that was filed recently with the female officers with, against the police department, I guess we could say, or if that's not something you can talk about, could you discuss efforts to increase the number of female officers in the midst of trying to diversify the police department?
I'll let the city manager address that initially.
Yeah, as far as commenting, no. It's, that's pending litigation, and so I'm certainly not at liberty to comment. What I can say is we always take claims of that nature we take them very seriously. We expect the justice system to solve that, and probably nothing more to say on that one. And as far as recruitment, I wouldn't leave it just at police department. I would say citywide. We try very hard to diversify our workforce. Ernesto De La Rosa is on board now as our chief DEI officer, and that's the first DEI officer the city's had. So we treat that very seriously to make sure that we have a welcoming and safe environment for all of our employees.
If I may add, Phil, you know, coming from the police department, I know the changes that have taken place there. The number of female officers that are there serving this community has grown amazingly since I started. And I've seen them serve in nearly every capacity there at the department, and they are an integral part of our success and of the professionalism that the department has. And I'm proud of their service as well as every other officer down there. So we're, as the city manager says, we take any kind of condition seriously and look at that, and it will not dissuade us from continuing to seek out qualified female employees.
How's the, just a different note, how's the Paul Quincy situation? We noticed a lot of changes with like, it's easier to get through now. Any updates that the city has worked with KDOT on maybe how the timetable is looking on the project?
No real new updates on that one right now. Certainly, we're starting to move into that next phase as the warmer months start to hit. But KDOT's been great partners for us as far as making sure that our residents can traverse safely and openly, and we expect that to continue.
Yes.
So there's been calls for decriminalizing marijuana in cities like Lawrence and Wichita, and with the chance that medical marijuana can become somewhat legal in the state of Kansas this upcoming year, how would you guys feel about plans to decriminalize marijuana here in Topeka?
I think that's a state issue right now.
Yeah. There have been no conversations
No.
at the local level about it.
So you guys haven't taken any steps towards planning for that or
No.
anything of that.
No, that's a state issue to be considered.
We'll get back to what you mentioned, Phil, about Pope Quincy Plaza, Viaduct. The city manager has been, and his staff has been very diligent preparing for the changes that will come with that development. One of them notably is the police department and its facility for maintenance of our vehicles.
Yeah.
And they've looked at different sites and are continuing to do that to try and find the most reasonable and useful property and location for us to move, because we have to move in what, 2024, next year?
End of June of '24.
Yeah. So that timeline will get here quicker than you expect. So I just want to make mention of
Yeah.
that we are planning for those changes, just like some of the businesses that were affected down there, like Harvesters and those.
That's right.
And is the law enforcement center, it's not being scheduled to move at this point, as far as we know?
No, the law enforcement center's fine. It's just the fleet garage that's attached to it that is impacted by the path of the new viaduct. And so, as the mayor mentioned, we're one of many different organizations that are affected by this.
I would like to commend the Topeka Fire Department for their work recently on the fires that our city has experienced. They have responded as professionals and done everything they could to help those affected by those unfortunate fires. And I want to commend them for their work and the way they have handled themselves during this very busy time.
Yeah, Mayor, I can tell you, just to add on to the back end of that, the TFD just filed their annual report, and it looks like for 2022, we had a little more than 1,200 fires in the city. So the guys are busy and working hard.
Further questions? Okay, thank
right,
you very
thanks,
much for
Jim.
being here
Appreciate
today.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.